So for this little rambling video, I'm going to give my first impressions from the new animated Invincible show, and then also I want to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've got multiple episodes of both of these series out there now. I've been eager to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Invincible kind of snuck up on me a little bit, but I just can't hold it in. I want to talk about that. But for this video, I'm going to be kind of weird on spoilers, or at least it seems kind of weird to me. So let me just explain. I'm going to start off with Invincible. And I'm not going to have spoilers in Invincible, or if there are spoilers, like super light. I guess what I'm saying is, like, if I say I watched this movie and there was a bad guy, technically I suppose that could be a spoiler. So that's what I mean by like super light. I'm going to keep it as light as I can, still conveying how it made me feel, give my first impressions. And then for Falcon and Winter Soldier, spoilers are fair game. So if you don't want spoilers for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but you're interested in Invincible, you're safe. You can watch through. I'll give another warning before I shift gears, and you can stop the video there if you need to. But I really want people to check out Invincible, so I'm going to keep those spoilers out because I want to encourage people to check it out. And my experience, and maybe my experience isn't indicative of reality, but I feel like cartoons made for grown-ups just don't have as wide an audience as live action stuff like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier does. So though I don't know the numbers, I don't have a fact to point at, I suspect a whole lot more of you folks have watched the Falcon and Winter Soldier than the Invincible cartoon. So that's why I want to go mild on those spoilers, because maybe people will watch it, then at the end of the season, I can have a full-on season review on that, and folks who normally wouldn't have checked it out will get on and ride, so we can have like a cool little spoiler thing at the end of the season. That's down the road. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then, but I want to keep my options open. So I want to start off with talking about Invincible, and I just want to say up front, wow, I love Invincible. And I like the comics well enough, but I wasn't really devoted to the comics. I watched the animated action comic thing. I think maybe it was made for MTV2 or something like that years ago. And I've read the first few trades. I didn't follow Invincible all the way through. I know within the past few years, the final issue of Invincible has come out, and I didn't check that out. Maybe I should have. Maybe I will. I mean, it's not like it disappeared. I can always go back and check it out. But it was just one of those things. I thought I would check it out. Then it kind of slid by. And before I knew it, I felt like that window of opportunity for the immediacy of it had passed. But, that's the nice thing. I can still go back to it anytime. But this animated show, just to start off, the quality is solid. The quality is solid. And that goes a long way. And I'll break that down into what I mean. Just in case you don't know, it's on Amazon Prime Video. As of recording this video, the first 3 episodes were available, so I think all 3 of those dropped at once. I just planned to watch the first one. Then I thought, you know what, I'll go ahead and watch the second one. Then before you know it, I was like, you know what, I don't care if it's past my bedtime. I'm going to go ahead and watch that third one. And that really kept me going. And I will admit, I've had a very tough time getting into animation lately. And this one was like no problem. So I want to start off by talking about the excellent voice cast. And maybe you don't care as much about voice cast. Maybe voice cast in animation doesn't draw you the same way that same actor would in a live action thing. But I just got to point out it's awesome. And I suppose we start with Mark Grayson, Invincible himself, which, maybe that's a mild spoiler. If you didn't know that Bruce Wayne was Batman, maybe I shouldn't let you know that before you watch the first movie or something. But anyway, Mark Grayson is cast by the actor who played Glenn on The Walking Dead. In case you don't know, The Walking Dead and Invincible created by the same guy, Robert Kirkman. I do believe the actor's name is Steven Yeun. I so much apologize if I pronounce that wrong. I have such a problem pronouncing names correctly. I think it's Steven Yeun. My apologies if it's wrong. But anyway, he's great as Mark Grayson. He really seems to get the character, and the voice seems to hit it right there where it needs to be. And, it's a famous name people are familiar with, so maybe it'll bring some more eyes to the screen. Then a cool character from the comics is Invincible's father, a character called Omni-Man. And Omni-Man is voiced by J.K. Simmons. As I told you in my previous couple of videos about the Snyder Cut, yellow M&Ms, yellow peanut M&Ms are my favorite because that's the character J.K. Simmons voices in the M&Ms commercial. I love J.K. Simmons. Him, as the voice of Omni-Man just seems spot on. I don't see how you could do any better than that. Sandra Oh voices Invincible's mother. Maybe you know Sandra Oh from something like Grey's Anatomy or Sideways. She's worked a lot. I'm sure you probably know who I'm talking about. And those were the big treats in the first episode. Then we move on and the cast gets bigger, and it's still excellent, recognizable voice actors in a lot of the roles. Personal favorite of mine, Jason Mantzoukas, a pretty fun comedic actor. He brings a lot of fun to a character he voices. I'll withhold the name of that character just to keep spoilers absolutely as light as possible. Jillian Jacobs from Community, she voices a character. Walt Coggins, like a great bad guy from so many live-action movies, he voices a character here. You get the legendary, absolutely legendary Clancy Brown voicing a character. Zazie Beetz, who I love as Domino in the second Deadpool movie, Zazie Beetz voices a character. You get Zach Quinto. You also get Seth Rogen. So, great voice casting. There are people I didn't mention. There are probably people whose name I didn't catch. I watched it on Amazon. It's cool because you just pause it, and then this thing pops up and it tells you, who's in each role that's on the screen. So those are just some names that I kept track of and scribbled down in my notes so I could give you an idea of how great the casting is. And believe me, it gets better from there. I read in an undisclosed role, I think, that Mahershala Ali is going to be lending his voice to the show. It's just so good and solid. Worth checking out for the voice cast alone, but there's also a whole lot more good going on there. Once you go past the voice cast, the animation. The animation is solid. I would compare it to like Young Justice animation. In fact, it looks a lot like Young Justice animation. I don't know if animation really has what you would call a house style, the way you do with comics, but that's the comparison I would use. It's house style. Good, solid, but house style animation. But the character design, particularly the main character, Invincible, it is spot on, in my opinion, with the comics, the way that it was drawn, illustrated by Ryan Ottley. I love Ryan Ottley. You should love Ryan Ottley. He's awesome. And it's just such a great costume, and it's so hard to create a new superhero costume that doesn't either look derivative or phony or overdone. But back with Invincible in the comics, when it debuted, they achieved just that with Invincible's look. It's wonderful. And that carries over to the animated series. Now the story, once again, no spoilers here, other than, I will say, if you've read the comics, if you've followed the first story arc, at least from the comics, if you've read the first trade's worth of material from Invincible, not a lot of surprises here for you. It really carries the comic book story over pretty well. So for some people that might be a plus, for some people that might be a minus. I liked it. Like I said, I've read the comics once, not all of the comics, but I've read some of the early comics once. I haven't gone back to it again and again, so the story's not stale to me, but I was familiar enough with it that I wasn't surprised by any sort of twists or turns that it took. They make some minor changes. A few things are different on the animated series than they are in the comic book, but they're minor, and I'm cool with it, and I roll with it. The big things that I think made the comic series work, they're still here in the animation. So story is solid, but I'll just say, if you're really familiar with Invincible from the comics, you're probably going to know where it's going. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler for you, but just wanted to communicate that for any folks who, for some reason, love the comics and haven't checked it out yet. I don't know who that person is, but if it's you, now you know. The story might get compared to The Boys. The Boys is also on Amazon. Some people might think it's sort of an animated equivalent. I would say it's not at all, other than the fact that The Boys and Invincible are both part of the broad comic book type superhero storytelling genre that's superhero deconstructionism. And once upon a time, that alone was a plot. Superhero deconstruction, that was a thing. That's Miracle Man, that's Watchmen, that's The Dark Knight Returns. Superhero deconstruction in and of itself was a plot, but it's grown to be a genre. There's so much superhero deconstruction out there that it's all done differently, and they're all individual stories. And in fact, I would say most news stories involving superheroes, if they're not, established characters at Marvel and DC, are almost expected to be in the superhero deconstruction vein. So the only real similarity I think this has to The Boys is that they're both superhero deconstruction, but, you know, folks that aren't real into comics, folks that only are checking out the new shows on Prime, will probably point that out. Like, call this an animated Boys. Fan of The Boys? I say it's not. Both The Boys and this animated show are very, very violent and bloody. I probably should have topped off with that. This is an R-rated animation. And there's language, and there's ridiculous violence. The title card has blood splatter on it. Think this is the guy who created The Walking Dead, though the story is very, very different from The Walking Dead. Plenty of blood, plenty of gore, extreme violence. Know that before you go into it. But it worked really well for me. Something else that's fun that carried over from the comics, and this isn't a spoiler, this is just mentioning some Easter eggs. Kirkman, big fan of TGI, or whatever they call that, TGIF on television, the Friday night shows. Big fan of Family Matters. You look at the name of his trades when the Invincible trades were released. They're all named after late 80s, early 90s TV shows. In fact, there's a trade, I'm pretty sure, called Family Matters. The high school Invincible goes to is Reginald Vell Johnson High School, which I love. I get a kick out of that. And then to take it to even another level, the principal of the high school is voiced by Reginald Vell Johnson of Family Matters fame. And the principal's name is Principal Winslow. Adam, if you're watching this, Adam, you got to check out this animated cartoon. Come on, you're going to love that. But yeah, I really want people to watch Invincible. I can't recommend it highly enough. I think that I've given you the necessary warnings to know if you want to duck out. Like if you didn't like the comics, I think it's a no-brainer, but don't watch the show. If you like the comics so much that you don't want to see them changed, don't watch the show. But there's not very much changed. But, you know, you probably already know you don't want to watch the show if that's how you feel. The blood, the violence, come on, you got to be of an appropriate age. Kids shouldn't be watching without their parents, that sort of thing. But other than that, I want people to watch this show. When the season's over, I want to do a recap and be able to talk spoilers and what was great and like specific moments that just I thought were awesome, kind of like I did with the Snyder Cut. I want to pump my fist. So let me know down in the comments if you plan on watching Invincible and if you might be interested in a season wrap-up when it's all done. Now moving on to my thoughts on the Falcon and Winter Soldier, 2 episodes in. Hey, I'm happy when I'm happy, man. I love this show. I think you probably should love it too. You're probably watching this video to hear me talk more about that than Invincible, so I kind of hijacked and pushed a show I really like on you before I get to what you wanted to hear about. Is that dirty poker? I don't know, but they are 2 things that are out and I haven't talked about either, and the longer I wait, the stellar the topic gets. So with the Falcon and Winter Soldier, that first episode had a lot of development. We don't even see the Falcon and the Winter Soldier on screen at the same time, so it's really cool. And, you know, it's only a 45-minute episode, but it just does so much to let me know where Sam's head is at when this series is getting started. It lets me know where Bucky's head is at and what he's going through. And I think that first episode was just beautiful for setting the stage. And, of course, it hits us with the big jaw dropper at the end by debuting what we'll call the fake Captain America, Johnny Walker, also known as Super Patriot and U.S. Agent in the comics. I tend to refer to him as either Johnny Walker or U.S. Agent. I knew that was coming. I talked about it in my transition from WandaVision to the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode. But still, even knowing it was coming, it satisfied. Like, there was no failure to satisfy with that. It worked for me beautifully as if I didn't know it was coming. I loved it. And I will say I've always liked Johnny Walker, U.S. Agent in the comics, so I'm kind of glad to see him here, and I'm kind of cool. You know, I think it's kind of cool the way they're dealing with him, and I like where I see this story going. I can't believe Battlestar is in this show. Lamar Hoskins, Battlestar, the second Bucky, if we're going to go through his comic book lineage. The replacement Bucky, because he's probably not the second. There's probably some weird Bucky in between, like from the 50s that I didn't know about. But I call him fake Bucky to go with fake Captain America. How did I not know this was here? Did you guys know that we were going to have Battlestar? Let me know if you did, but it totally surprised me in the best way possible. I got such a kick out of it, particularly since I went back and reread some of the first appearances of Flag Smasher, Johnny Walker, in the past week, just to kind of work on some other production videos that are in the works, so look out for those. But I can't believe Battlestar is there. I'm glad I didn't know, but I can't believe I didn't know. Big plus to me. Erin Kellyman playing, I guess, the leader of Flag Smashers. I don't know if she's necessarily the leader or just one of the leaders. I think we'll still find out exactly what her role is there as the story unfolds. She seems great. You know, she was Enfys Nest in Solo, a Star Wars story, so a little bit of recognizability there. She's wonderful. I don't know how much fight choreography she does herself and how much is a stunt actor because of the mask and all. That would probably be easy to do, but she seems great. I think that character is going to be great. Once again, thumbs up. So far, no complaints. I do like Joaquin Torres, the way that they're using him here. Joaquin Torres is in the comics, though. I didn't read a whole lot of Nick Spencer's Sam Wilson Captain America. I do know a little bit about him. I know he became the second Falcon, but I also think it was something weird, like he became a vampire Falcon, so almost like a werewolf, but a were-Falcon, but he couldn't turn back to human. He was always in Falcon mode, so, you know, that's pretty far out. I don't expect to see that in Disney Plus, but that's, you know, who that character is, so I think they're doing justice to him in the live-action show. So I plan to follow where he's going. I think he'll be a significant part of the show, and I like the actor, I like the performance. They did something that I can't understand how they did it, and they did it so well. But once Sam and Bucky get together, they carried the action comedy, buddy cop genre. They made it feel familiar and fresh at the same time. Like all the tropes are there, but they don't feel cliched. And it is so much fun, that whole buddy cop dynamic we're getting between Sam and Bucky. Once again, just got to say fun, fun, fun. I described this show with one word. Actually 3 words, but it's just the same one repeated 3 times. Fun, fun, fun. Now, the show does not shy away from dealing with social issues. And anytime a show does that, it always gets some detractors. There are some people that say, I don't want reality in my comic books. And you know, whatever floats your boat, chase your bliss, read and watch what makes you happy. Personally, I don't have a problem with that. Also, it kind of makes sense. Nick Spencer wrote the Sam Wilson Captain America run for Marvel, and Nick Spencer does not shy away from social issues at all whatsoever. It's here. I know there are going to be some folks who say they hate it and they're not going to watch it, even though they'll probably watch it to complain about it. I don't know, but it doesn't bother me. I like it. Let me know how you feel about it. Maybe don't. You know, I don't want to open up that can of worms. Pretend I didn't say that. But you know, we all grow up with morality stories. You know, that's why, like, young children's stories are like fables, and they end with the moral to the story is don't eat more than you need, or something like that. So morality is a part of storytelling, kind of going back to the earliest days of storytelling. And you can't expect that to be totally absent in modern storytelling. And I think we all feel like we're in a situation where we've been treated unfairly, like all of us, regardless of what categories we might fit into. So just try to dig into that and relate and sympathize. You know, I've been turned down for loans, even though it might have been a very different reason and situation. I can put myself in his shoes and I can feel that frustration and pain. But like I said, you're allowed to like what you like. I love this show and I like the stories. I like the plot so far. The action's great. The character development's great. The comedy hits. I like the idea that Johnny Walker is the new guy who tries to get accepted. And I can go back to when I was in junior high and I wanted to be part of a particular clique, and I just show up and try to smile and act like I'm one of them, and I get the cold shoulder and pushed out. And the first thing I do is I add them to the list of people I want to smite when I get my superpowers. And I kind of see Johnny doing this. He really wants to be part of the club with Sam and Bucky, and they reject him, so he gets that bitterness that from personal experience I can say is very real, and I think it's very well done here. A lot of fun. And I think I know where the show is going, so I'm going to give you some wild, crazy speculation, crackpot theories here. These aren't spoilers. These are my thoughts. I'll let you comment on if you think I'm anywhere close to where it's going down in the comments section. And then, of course, when it's all wrapped up, just like with WandaVision, I was way off on a lot of stuff, but it was still fun to talk about. I'm probably going to be way off here, but I'll let you know what I anticipate. First off, and this is colored heavily by the way I view Johnny Walker from the comics, I think Johnny's not a bad guy. Honestly, I think he's just not very smart in a particular way. And I don't mean like he can't do math or he doesn't know the capital of all the countries. I'm sure he can get good grades. but he's sort of not very smart when it comes to morality. He has that blind loyalty where he's a good guy and he wants to do good, but he doesn't always have the ability to identify good and bad on his own. So he puts his faith in something bigger, which in this case is the U.S. government, and he goes in the direction that they point him with the peace of mind that he doesn't have to make the moral judgment. They've made it for him, and he's going to follow that track. But I think he's not a bad guy at his core. He doesn't want to do bad. So I think that's going to come through in this series, and I think by the time things are all said and done, I think Johnny Walker will be working with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or with Sam and Bucky. I also think that we're going to find the Flag Smasher organization, once again, at its core, they want to do good. Maybe they're struggling doing good in the right way. But I do think as a real big bad guy that threatens the world emerges, probably in the form of Baron Zemo, Flag Smasher, Johnny Walker, Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes, I think they're all going to be on the same side, moving against whatever machination Baron Zemo has. And at some point, he'll probably pit them against each other before they figure it out and work together and get it done. But I really think that's the direction it's going. Modern climate, a lot of folks are going to relate to what Flag Smasher is doing in this show, so they're going to have some audience on their side, and I think the creators are smart enough to capture that positively. Once again, I think Johnny Walker will become U.S. agent by the end of this show. I think Sam Wilson will go from being called Falcon to his official name will be Captain America by the end of this show. I think once Falcon becomes Captain America, he may even give up the wings altogether. What I'm real curious to figure out is, where did this power that the Flag Smashers have come from? They've alluded to the fact it's the Power Broker. The Power Broker is a character in comics who can give people superpowers. I think we're going to find out Battlestar and Johnny Walker got their power from the Power Broker just like they did in the comics. I think in some way, and this is totally different from the comics, but I think Sam might get some version of the Super Soldier Serum. I think Sam will get some kind of power to justify giving up his wings entirely, and I think he'll give those wings to Joaquin Torres and he'll become Falcon. I don't think they're going to go anywhere near the vampire were-Falcon thing from the comics that I don't even know all that well. So I might be a little out of line describing it wrong, but you get the idea. It's a supernatural kind of thing. I think they'll stay away from that. You know, they've introduced Isaiah Bradley. Comic book fans know that his grandson, I don't remember if it's his grandson or his grandnephew, but he's related to the character of Patriot from the Young Avengers. We know that Kate Bishop's coming. We know that Riri Williams is coming. We've already seen a potential Wiccan and Speed. So now we've seen a person on screen who could become Patriot. I mean, come on. There's no way they're not going full force with Young Avengers at this point, right? I mean, they are doubling down on the Young Avengers as at least one future pathway for the Marvel streaming universe or Marvel Cinematic Universe, or maybe both. But yeah, every show seems to be giving us another Young Avengers member, or two in the case of WandaVision. So one thing I'm really not certain about, because this is where my own wants and desires are interfering with my theory crafting. But when I'm thinking about where everybody is at the end of this season, I'm starting to worry that Bucky is not going to survive. I could see where Bucky finds his ultimate peace in a way that takes him out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I don't want that. You know, we've explored all the Winter Soldier story arc, and it's concluded, so to some people, they might think that the perfect ending to his story and his story arc is to finally, you know, after 106 years of suffering, to finally get peace in that, you know, eternal rest of death. Or maybe he'll just walk off into the darkness and he's there if we need him again. But I really like Sebastian Stan. I really like the character. I think he's got a power set that Marvel needs in future cinematic movies. I think he makes a good familiar face to help us transition from the Avengers to the new Avengers. But I also feel like if they want to put a big emotional exclamation point on this series, having it end with Bucky passing on in some way, shape, or form, whether it's literal or metaphorically, I think that could be something they're doing. And I don't want that to happen for selfish reasons because I like the character. But that is something I'll put out there. Let me know your theories. Do you think Bucky will be around after the final episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Of course, I'm going to try to do a season wrap-up when it's over, maybe talk about transitioning to Hawkeye. Is that the next show on the horizon? I'll have to get my dates down so I'm not yammering on about something totally pointless. But that's all I got for this week. Hope it's good enough for you. Talk to you soon.